Happy Monday, MMA fans, diehards, degenerates, my gamblers. How is everybody doing? Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Die Hard MMA podcast. We're talking UFC 290, International Fight Week. It's finally here, baby. We couldn't be happier about this awesome fight card that we get to break down today. Hope everybody is doing well. I see y'all already rolling in the chat. Ethan, what is going on with the Clintus Duplessis saying you cashed in for 11 units last week? Congrats. We got Dream, we got Mushroom, we got Jonathan Ingram, the Grateful Dude. Dixon Sider already calling out the red flags here. Apparently, Bo Nickal has the embedded haircut curse. Good to know. Good to know, Dixon. We need to make sure we keep an eye on that. Victor in the house. What's going on, my guy, Lou? Yeah. Here we go. Everybody's starting to pour in here. 916 Dave. We got Steven. Let's see here. Who else is here? I'm just Drew. What's up, my buddy? How you doing today? Hope everybody is killing it. Joshua Frick, T-Funk. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for jumping in here with us. We've already got 50 live viewers rocking and rolling. Thank you for watching the Die Hard MMA podcast. This is Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you hit us with the like button here real quick. And got to come clean with you guys. Little disappointed. I'm coming off of a embarrassing 5-unit loss last weekend. It really hurts more so than anything because 4 of that 5 units came from the split decision Lipski versus Gatto. I had a 4-unit parlay that was tied to a fight here on UFC 290. And that was incredibly disappointing to have a split decision that I felt was a pretty clean 29-28 go against me. And it was so bad, I guess, Chris Lee and Sal D'Amato literally tried to kill me. If I'm a little low energy today, you guys, I do have to apologize right off the bat. I was in the ER until about 1 a.m. last night. And Michelle, if you're listening, don't tell my mom. I'll let her know. Haven't told her yet. I know you're listening. I can't let the tea get spilled. I'm okay. Literally a chip tried to kill me. It got stuck in my throat and I couldn't breathe. So I had to have my wife drive me to the ER and had to get some help to get it out of there. I'm okay. I'm just tired. So we're getting after it. Unfortunately, no blue shirt, but I am rocking. Check this out. Check out the threads, baby. I've been telling you guys about the new merch. I finally got my own shirts. I love the new logo t-shirt. So that's looking good. I'm disappointed to say I was going to rock the always trust your balls. I was going to show off the always trust your balls because damn, this thing is comfortable and I love it, but I haven't earned it, folks. I didn't earn it. It's going to haunt me that last week I did not go to war with my guy, Benoit Saint Denis. I called it all week. I called it on Monday. I called it on Thursday. I called it on Friday. I told Gianni that I was just waiting for the line to peak. And then I didn't pull the trigger. I don't know what the hell happened. Last week, losing that 5 units was I've lost more than that, obviously, in a single card before, but it was maybe one of the most frustrating, infuriating cards for me in the world because I sacked up. I pulled the trigger on Romanov in that buy low spot where it was greasy, nasty, and nobody wanted a piece of him, but we were getting a good price. That worked. Benoit Saint Denis is literally the exact same spot on the other side where you're getting that recency bias over value. But I talked myself into Kevin Lee and Demiris Magulov. Neither of those needed to be plays. I was on neither of those guys to start the week. I miss the plus 260 dog, and I lose 2 units in the process, pulling the trigger on guys that I wanted nothing to do with to start the week out. So embarrassing performance from me. We're going to get back on track this week. And to help us do that, I brought in the big guns. We got none other than the man himself, Andrew Gombas. Andrew, how you doing today, my guy? It's been a minute.
What's up, bro? How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you and talk some fights again, man. Thank you for joining us on the show. How was your weekend last week?
It was okay. It was about a break even. I had Gatto also as my biggest bet of the weekend, but got Carolina as a dog, got Saint Denis as a dog, so it was all right.
You and me were very, very much in the same place. I didn't pull the trigger on Saint Denis, unfortunately. I know we kind of DM'd about it and talked about it. I should have. But I was on Carolina there with you. That one felt good. And yeah, man, just I can't complain. I've got a couple okay bounces this year when it comes to the split decisions. I've caught a few. You got to catch bounces. It just sucked that my biggest bet of the, both weeks actually, was on the split decision that didn't go my way. So I feel you there, man. That one hurts.
Yeah, I've been really bad on split decisions this year. I actually went and did the math just for the hell of it. I'm 6-13 on split decisions this year. So it seems to never fall my way. I'm not saying that Gato was a good bet. It wasn't a robber or anything. Like I've been on Emmers, Kaikar France, Jiyeon Kim, like all of which I thought were like way worse decisions than Gato. But like it just stinks when you're like, man, like in theory these should be 50-50. And I know it's a super small sample size, but I'm looking forward to kind of some positive recorrection there.
Long term, it should even out. They should crack your way a couple times, but damn, dude, the pain. We remember the ones that don't go our way anyway. Even even if it is 50-50, we remember the ones that don't go our way. Yeah, man. And just kind of address that for a second. It wasn't a robbery. There's a difference between a close fight and a robbery. I thought Gato did enough to get the nod. I feel like she controlled the fight essentially everywhere. And even the people that want to make like the damage argument, Lipski was wearing it on her face more than Gato was. Like there was no real damage done to sway it the other way. But she made a couple mistakes in the third round when she lost the scramble and ended up on bottom. Like it was just those little visuals that kind of I think tipped it the other direction. So frustrating, but laying minus 250 on a spot that was going to play out that close, obviously in hindsight, can't say it's a good bet. Dixon Sider with the truth here though, 30-27 is criminal. And I agree with that. I think you can argue 29-28 either way. I wouldn't get mad at you. But the 30-27 was the one that kind of got me in the shorts. I was a little upset about that.
Yeah, I felt like round 3 was clear Lipsy. Rounds 1 and 2 were pretty close. I thought it was interesting because I thought round 2 was more clear for Gato than round 1, and 2 judges actually gave Lipsky round 2. So
I agree with you.
Interesting.
That one was the one that made really no sense to me. I'm with you there. Round 3 was definitely Lipsky. And again, I think a lot of that had to do with the visuals. If Gato gets on top in that scramble instead of accepting bottom, we might be looking at a different scorecard, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Still having a good year, thankfully. We'll bounce back on this card, but we got to eat some chalk, folks. Like I said, do got to apologize right off the bat. I was exhausted and up late. I slept in today, so no sexy tiles. I was going to have the awesome cards up for you guys for the big pay-per-view, but we're just going to stick with Old Faithful here, Tapology. First fight of the night, we got Kamuela Kirk taking on Esteban Ribovics. And this is a fight that I'm really looking forward to, Andrew. Kamuela Kirk is a guy. It's funny. When I went back and I ran the tape on him here in this spot, my brain, I remember a different version of Kamuela Kirk. And I don't know if that was just me kind of capping him wrong maybe in the first place or what, but I kind of remember a different guy. He's a little bit more low volume than I recall him being. He's nice, tall, long, lanky. He strikes well at range, but he's low volume too. And then anytime he gets in scrambles, he's got that classic BJJ, I'm fine to play off my back type of situation. And that got him in trouble. He's 1-1 in the UFC, and Damon Jackson just had no problem taking him down, sitting on top of him, and that was kind of a bad look. I really thought he was going to win that fight. Looks like he's coming up to 155 here in this spot. And Esteban Ribovics, this is a guy who fought tooth and nail against Loic in his UFC debut, had the guy hurt late in that fight, had a lot of opportunities to do some damage, but got taken down 11 times. So I'm kind of scratching my head here a little bit because based on, optics, damage, all that kind of stuff, I feel like Ribovics is going to be the guy who's kind of moving the needle. He's the guy that's definitely going to be landing the harder shots. Seems like he's the more aggressive striker. But Kamuela Kirk at 155, he's probably going to need to play the Matador here. And rather than accepting bottom, if he can get some top time, if he can get some takedowns of his own, because it looks like Ribovics just really doesn't have any takedown defense to speak of, I think Kamuela is kind of a live dog. I mean, it's a little bit of a leap of faith trusting him to go to the takedown rather than accepting the bottom position. And I almost know he's going to get out-volumed on the feet. So it's going to be predicated on like him landing bigger, harder shots with the counters for him to steal these exchanges. I don't like this fight, if I'm being honest with you here, Andrew. My brain says Kamuela's a live dog. And at the same time, it's a little too much for me. I don't really want to touch that side at this point in time. Maybe you can sway me, though. What do you think of this first fight of the night?
Yeah, so I like Kirk here. I think that he's a better grappler. I think he's better technically. Ribovics has power, explodes early, but he can be taken down. I think he has some flaws technically. Mm-hmm. He's going to push a pace early, but I think later the fight goes, Kirk could probably keep that pace for longer. I don't know why that line got steamed. I'm not confirming nor denying that I had something to do with this today, but yeah, I mean, I think it's a close fight. Like, it's one of those fights where I feel like either guy could win. I mean, gun to my head, I'm picking Kirk outright, but I do think it's a close fight. Like, I don't really see either guy separating themselves unless Ribovics finishes early, which is possible. But I think just the more this fight goes, the better it is for Kirk. So I'm picking him to get it done.
Okay. I hear you there. And man, it's I've got that built-in bias. He's a fight ready guy. I know he's been kind of splitting time, I believe, between Fight Ready and Siege MMA. I feel like the 155 move is going to be good for him. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage in this spot. Just got promoted to BJJ black belt. So there's a lot to like, I feel like, on the Kirk side of things. So, man, I'm leaning that way. It's a matter of, like my guy Dixon Sider said, he's reminding me, because I just got burned. I literally just talked about this with last week's card, fumbling my own reads here. I need to trust my balls. Maybe I just sack up here and take Kamuela Kirk at the live underdog odds. The one thing I do want to do, though, is make sure I listen to our guy Brandon Olivas and Santino. They do their podcast every week. That's one of the ones I make sure I listen to. They try not to talk too much about their own guys, obviously, with the, all the gamble and stuff going on with the UFC. But I always like to, pop an ear in there and listen to what they've got to say before I dig too deep in on a fight ready type. But speaking of moving lines, though, Andrew, I feel like there was a big one that might have gotten off the hook for this card a minute ago.
Oh yeah. I'm still emotionally upset about that one, but what can you do?
Dude, the pain of that thing, like the line jumps like what, 80 cents? I mean, my guy from Superbook, Andrew, hit me up and was like, bro, like this line just got obliterated here. Something happened. Next thing you know, we got an injury. Brady's off the card. I felt so bad for you getting that kind of a line move in that spot and then having the fight pulled like what, 2 hours later?
Yeah, it was literally hours later. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing I could do. I mean, I don't go big very often. I thought that was just the perfect stylistic matchup, the perfect number, the perfect bounce back spot from being a favorite against a guy who's a top 5 guy with better grappling. Just for a number of reasons, it was just the perfect spot for me. But not to say it was automatic or anything.
Sure.
Anything can happen. It's a fight. But yeah, just what I felt to be a great spot. And it sucked to not get to see it play out. But hopefully, maybe someday in the future, not that line will ever exist again, but yeah, we'll see. I think I just have to let this one go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate part, man. Anytime these fights fall apart, they rebook them. The line's never the same, right? So that number's long gone. But did you see Brady's elbow? Like, I just hope he's okay. That thing looks like you shoved a watermelon in it.
Yeah, it looks pretty bad. I don't know how that happens, but it's hopefully speedy recovery. I'm glad they were able to get Jack a fight for this weekend, and yeah, on to the next, I guess.
Yep, on to the next one. All right, everybody. Speaking of which, we'll move on to the next fight here for you. Next up, we got Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilar in another very interesting, scrappy undercard fight. It's interesting. This card, Andrew, is so top-heavy, but these prelim fights, they're going to be fun. I mean, they're greasy, they're dirty, they look like they're, a fight night type of material, but I think we're going to get a lot of back and forth action, maybe some finishes. And this one kind of sets up that way for me here as well. Both guys obviously massively flawed. Aguilar's 8-2, Shannon Ross 13-7. Shannon Ross is coming off of back-to-back KO losses, man. He started putting a pace. I was talking about this his last fight. He was pacing Salvador on Dana White's Contender Series, man. It really looked like he had taken everything Salvador had to offer and then was turning around to melt the man and just walked into a bomb. He just put himself in a bad spot, stayed in front of his opponent for way too long, ate a big 1-2 down the pipe, and that was the end of him. And then he gets smoked by Klitzen Rodriguez in the UFC. So 0-2 counting his Dana White Contender Series outing here. But the guy's aggressive. He swings from the hip. He's got a strong 1-2 down the pipe. He goes back to that well, maybe a little bit too often. I don't like how he dips his head off to the side so much. He also, like I mentioned, stands directly in front of his opponents, and that gets him hurt from time to time. But he's kill or be killed. He takes that, that option to take some damage here to dish out his own. He's got great finishing killer instinct. 3 knockout losses, 1 by sub. He's going to be bigger here. He'll have a 4-inch reach advantage. And Aguilar lost in the UFC his debut against Tatsuro Taira. I mean, really, no shame in that, right? Like, we know the UFC is propping Taira up. We'll talk about him here on this card, I think. And he's a slick grappler, and that's always been Aguilar's issue at 8-2. He's got 2 losses by submission, I believe, on his record. So it's been the problem for him, right? Is the grappling. He gets a little bit exposed in that area. And I think this is a fight that if Shannon Ross comes out with a solid game plan, he takes this guy down and roughs him up. But if he stands on the feet and bangs, Aguilar is waving the Mexican flag here like half this card is. He's more than willing to bite down on the mouthpiece and slug it out with you. He's got aggressive offensive wrestling. He just gets caught in that sometimes. Lots of kicks, likes to stay on the outside. He's got a quick, powerful check left hook, and he jumps Gilly and puts himself in bad positions. That's kind of the big thing for Aguilar, is that I feel like he's a little overexposed in the grappling. He always tries to get that arm-in guillotine, and it leaves him in a bad position. But frankly, this fight, Andrew, should be a car crash. We've got Aguilar as a minus 175 favorite. Shannon Ross looks to be about plus 145, plus 150 out there. And again, I'm kind of leaning dog or pass in this spot. Like, if you're giving me 2 mangy, foaming at the mouth dogs that are, rabid and flea bitten, I'm going to take the plus money. I kind of feel like Shannon Ross might actually be able to get on track here in this spot. And everyone thinks he's just a bum after getting thrown to the wolves by 2 guys with nuclear missiles in their hands. What do you make of this fight?
Yeah, I think French fries betting is starting to get the idea. We're talking about the Ross move from plus 180 to plus 140, and then the one before this. But yeah, I like Ross here. I bet Aguilar in his contender series fight, but he was like plus 200 there. He was finished quickly by Taira, who's also on this card, which is no shame in that. Taira's a beast. This feels like a big correction, though, from that contender series fight, going from plus 200 to minus 175 here, skipping that Taira fight, obviously, because we're not going to hold it against him. He's pretty desperate for takedowns, and he has a bad habit of pulling guys on top of him. He's small for the weight class, and Ross has actually fought Clayton and Vinicius Salvador. Both are big flyweights, especially Salvador. I think this is just a pretty good matchup for Ross. I like him as an underdog here.
I'm with you. I'm glad to hear that you like him as well, because I definitely think that that's the side, and I'm probably going to end up taking that one. That's one I haven't locked any action in yet so far, but Ross is the one that kind of jumped off the page at me, and obviously didn't see the line move before the show, so going to have to get on that sooner than later, it sounds like. But the one time Shannon Ross has been submitted, guys, was back in Eternal MMA. It was back in 2020, 2-3 years ago. Steven Erceg, the guy who came in, walking in off the streets and just absolutely obliterated David Dvorak, yeah, that's the guy that caught him. So really, at this point, you can tell no shame in that. That guy proved he belongs at the UFC level, and at a decent level at that. So I do think Shannon Ross is getting a little bit slept on here in this spot. I'm definitely going to be taking that dog shot. All right, everybody. We've got 149 live viewers. Thank you all so much for joining us. This is Andrew Gomes. Make sure you give him a follow on socials. Definitely a great guy. Does a podcast himself every single week. Gives out a ton of free information and swings lines, as you can tell. So definitely someone you want to make sure you're following and supporting. Do us a favor, though. Support us. Hit the like button while you're there. It doesn't cost you anything. Lets the algorithm know you like the free content. Let's get into this next fight here. Next up, we got Cameron Saaiman taking on Terrence Mitchell. And Cameron Saaiman, Andrew, I'm gonna die on this pedestal. I'm absolutely gonna die on this hill. I was going to pull out my life savings to put on Christian Rodriguez. Like, when they booked Saaiman versus Rodriguez, I loved that fight so much. And people are telling me I'm sleeping on Cameron Saaiman. No, not at all. Everybody else is sleeping on Christian Rodriguez. Like, that guy is so much better than people are giving him credit for. And I thought he was going to be able to outlast and out-scramble someone like Cameron Saaiman, get the win. It would have been a big plus number. Glorious. He's injured, falls through, and they replace him with Terrence Mitchell. Basically, the only thing I need to say about Terrence Mitchell is he's from the Alaska FC regional scene. Like, that's all you need to know, folks. Anybody who comes from the Alaskan regional scene, they just get torched in the UFC. He's got a shiny record, 15-2, 100% finish rate. All the pieces are there. He was in the Ultimate Fighter season 24, and he got smoked by Kara France. Now, there's no shame in that, right? Kara France is a guy that could be challenging for a title. But the very first punch landed hurt this kid. I mean, like, he was out of there in record time. And the people that he's fighting, if you just Google or YouTube this kid's name. Look at he's fighting people that are in worse shape than me. That's what this record of first round finishes comes from. So I'm not overly impressed. He is tall. He is lanky. He's got some nasty elbows. He knows how to sink in a rear naked choke, Andrew, but it's concerning to me that he doesn't even know how to get his hooks in before he does it. Now, granted, he didn't need to. He didn't need to get his hooks in the Alaskan regional scene, but you still should. Like, it's a matter of principle that you should be getting your hooks in. You should be getting your body triangle, and he didn't bother. He would fall right off of someone like Cameron Saaiman. Saaiman's 8-0, undefeated. This kid is super well-rounded for his age. He seems pretty composed in there. The problem is, his last fight with Mana Martinez, he got a point taken because he fouled him so egregiously 3 different times over the course of the fight. That's a little concerning. Hopefully he tightens that up just a little bit. If he does, he's going to be fine. He's dangerous, man. He's got pop in his hands, power on the feet. He's a decent grappler. He scrambles really well. He's strong. He's athletic. And we talk about, the man strength thing. This kid isn't even old enough to have that yet. He's going to get better. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger as he fills out here. He's really growing up in front of us here in the UFC. But you got to like him here. This is a spot where it's Cameron Saaiman probably by death, however he wants to get this guy out of there. I really feel like he's going to finish this poor kid, Terrence Mitchell, probably in the first round. What do you make of this one here, Andrew?
Yeah, I agree with you. Alaskan FC guys typically don't fare too well in the UFC. You mentioned his his tough fight against Kai France. And like you said, there's no shame in losing to Kai France. It's more so like the fashion it happened. He kind of just like marched out there and hit him a couple times, just absolutely put him out. The guy shoots in his regional fights, but this is just like a massive, massive step up from anything he's seen in Alaskan FC. I think Simon's probably fine here. Probably finishes him rather early, I would guess.
I would think so. I mean, the way this guy goes life and death in the first round, I think Saimon's probably just going to mind the range, pick his spots, and I don't think he's got much of a chin on him. And again, I know we can't knock him for the Kai France KO, but like the fact that the first time Cara France touched him, he immediately wobbled. Like, Cara France has got power, but that's some Francis Ngannou shit. Like, he doesn't have that kind of power. So I think Cameron Saimon's clean striking is going to get the better of him, and I'll be looking for an inside the distance. I know it's going to be a big chalky number. Simon's a minus 450 favorite right now. And frankly, folks, you're going to have to dodge the parlay buster this week. This is a big, heavy, chalky card, and this is one of those ones where pick the favorite. The price is probably going to be a little wide, but y'all want the winner. That's the winner. Cameron Saaiman wins this fight. Moving right along, we have got Vitor Petrino taking on Marcin Prachnio, and I've been waiting, Andrew. I've been waiting. Unfortunately, the bookies, they know what's up. The odds makers are not giving me a discount. Marcin Prachnio has found, kind of a second breath here in the UFC. He's absolutely got maybe the worst chin in the UFC right now. Somehow he has hid that for his last couple of fights. Showed some really solid fight IQ, if I'm going to give him credit where it's due, in his last fight against William Knight. I feel like the UFC made that kind of a freak show fight to get Will Knight a big highlight reel KO and keep him around a bit. Marcin Prachnio wasn't having it. He kept the distance. He kept the range. He showed off a really good kicking game and chipped at him. Never even gave Will Knight a chance to be in that fight. So you got to give him credit for pulling off that kind of a fight. He got hurt multiple times against Felipe Lins, and he managed to stay in that fight. Even though he did lose it, he didn't go down. I think this is the one, Andrew. I think this is the one where the chin issues kind of come back into play, because he's taking on Vitor Petrino. 8-0, 25 years old. His only win in the UFC was over the Pleasure Man. But, man, that was a hard-fought, tough battle. He made some serious mistakes. He gets a bit over-aggressive. He wings these big power hooks. I mean, everything he does comes from the hips. He kind of flurries and just does the hooking thing as he gets close to people. He's going to get cracked. Like, somebody somewhere is going to crack this kid who's got cleaner technical striking than he does. But I don't think it's going to be a kicker like Marcin Prachnio. In fact, I think the way Marcin Prachnio covers up and hides his head whenever he gets hurt, he's not going to have a chance to return fire here in this spot. I think Vitor Petrino knocks him out, and I think he does it relatively early. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage here in this spot. Just for future notice, I do want you guys to know he makes some mistakes grappling. Vitor Petrino has given up his back several times against the Pleasure Man. Everything he does is with explosions. It's like almost a Yoel Romero archetype. He explodes, takes a second, deep breath, reloads, and then does it again. So if you can't make him pay for it when he's in that reload phase, you're not going to get him. And he was able to survive those spots. I think someone somewhere along the line will make him pay, but this ain't it. I don't expect Marcin Prachnio to body lock this guy and backpack him and choke him out, rear naked choke or anything like that. I just don't see it happening. So just so you guys are aware, that is a weakness. It's on the table. I don't think it matters. I think Vitor KOs this guy probably in the first. Andrew, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely live to get a KO. He's powerful, but I just couldn't trust him at this price. Like, he gets very wild. He has no defense. So I think it's dog or pass for those reasons. But I do think Petrino is the justified favorite. Everyone's betting minus 300 on him here. I feel like I was the only one betting him at plus 100 against the Pleasure Man. So just another big correction there. Obviously, that line was a little bit off, but this line is too. I don't know how the Pleasure Man took some of those shots, because I had the under in that fight also, and he was hitting him with hammers. And Pleasure Man was just eating him. So that was pretty crazy. But yeah,
that was nuts.
I'm picking Petrino, but not with much confidence from a betting standpoint. It's dog or pass.
You know, Andrew, I think I was on the Pleasure Man there in that spot, and it's these grappling holes in his game that I thought he was going to be able to expose. Mm-hmm. He just kept exploding, though. Like, it's crazy the amount of times that the Pleasure Man got his back, and he was able to just power straight out of it. It was like, dear God, there was no chance of cashing that bet, but he tried. You talked about the amount of shots he ate. I don't think Marcin Prachnio can eat those shots, man. And that was really the big thing in the Will Knight fight. Will doesn't have the speed or the athleticism to close the distance. You know, he was able to dance around the outside of the cage and kind of kick at him, had him crippled, had that leg completely destroyed in that first round. And then he just never had an opportunity to close the distance to even touch the guy. That's the thing here with Vitor, though, is that if he needs to, he will Superman his way across the cage and get that brawl going. You know what I mean? So I think he'll present more of an opportunity. I think if I can get, near even money or like a minus 120 on a KO prop, that might be the better way to go to bring the price down, though.
Makes sense.
All right. I like it. Next up, here we go. I knew we were going to talk about him. We're talking Edgar Cháirez taking on Tatsuro Taira. And this is a short notice rebooking here. Taira was supposed to fight a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, his opponent missed weight. And honestly, he made probably what is a very, very intelligent choice for a young man not to take on the massive and powerful Klidson Rodriguez when he misses weight by 3-4 pounds. He decided to say no, turned it down. They're turning him around quickly and getting him rebooked against somebody else. So this is where we get Tatsuro Taira, where he probably is more of a showcase, right? 13-0, undefeated. We broke him down not too long ago. High caliber grappler, loves the back takes, loves the rear naked chokes. His opponent, Edgar, he fights out of Intram. So again, they're pulling him in for this basically all Mexico showcase card. He lost a decision on Dana White's Contender Series against Clayton Carpenter. That was an interesting fight on rewatch, man. I went back and Carpenter was the guy that was supposed to just walk in and steamroll, right? Like he was destined to be in the UFC. Edgar busted him up in that first round. I mean, we're talking Clayton had like a big old mouse under his eye, had swelling, he was bleeding. This kid can crack. He gave up 3 takedowns in that first round, and that's always been kind of the mark under, the mark for Clayton Carpenter. Geez, I botched that by fusing those two words together. That's always been Carpenter's thing, is he can take people down, maul them with grappling and pace. He got up immediately. Like Edgar wasn't down for more than a half second before he popped right back up to his feet. And over the course of that fight, Clayton shifted gears. He started going to the leg kick. He somehow went from wrestler to extremely technical striker over the course of a 10-minute fight and worked his way back into it, managed to win a decision, but it looked like he was going to get smoked as a favorite in that first round. This kid's dangerous. I like Edgar. I like what I see from him. And we still don't really know about Tatsuro's standing. He's a minus 900 favorite here in this spot. Edgar is a plus 600 dog. We just saw a plus 700 dog come through last weekend, Andrew. I'm nervous about these massive favorites. I do think it's Taira. I think he does eventually get him to the ground. And different from Carpenter, this kid will take your back and body lock you and triangle, lock you down. And he's longer on the feet. He can probably stay safe. But if his chin's ever going to get tested, this is the spot where his chin's going to get tested. We'll find out if this kid is really a contender or at least contender material moving forward in this kind of a fight, because I think Edgar's going to bring it. I'm going to pick Tatsuro Taira, but I don't know that there's much of a way that I like to bet this fight at this point. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Taira probably washes him on the ground. I don't like what I've seen from Cháirez. Am I saying how do you say his name?
Tatsuro
Cháirez?
Taira?
No, Cháirez.
Oh, you know
Cháirez?
what? Cháirez? Cháira? I think it might be an H at the end. I'm not sure.
You guys know who I'm talking about. I think Taira probably gets on top and goes to work. I don't like Cháirez bottom game. So yeah, I think Taira probably another showcase fight for him. And yeah, hopefully he gets a step up after this because he's been passing all his tests with flying colors. I think this is actually an easier fight for him than it was with Vergara or with Clayton.
Absolutely. I will agree with that part. But I'm still, the big thing for me is I got to see it to believe it. With this kid striking, I'm still not sure. We've seen him grapple his ass off. I know he's good there. I need to see the striking before I can really give him credit for it. He probably passes, but it's probably another sub. All right. We're moving right along through this card, everybody. And next up, we have got the rematch that nobody asked for. Alonzo Menifield taking on Jimmy the Brute Crute here. And I actually kind of love it, Andrew. It's funny because I think I was one of the people who was pretty heavily invested on Jimmy Crute and got saved by the bell in that fight. The only reason that it was a draw and we got the push was because Alonzo Menifield had been grabbing the cage the entire night. And finally, in the third round, they took a point from him. I was screaming my head off because the point should have been taken probably in round one, but they just let the fight go. It wasn't until it got greasy and hairy that they finally were like, all right, enough's enough. We'll take the dang point. That was a close fight. I mean, Jimmy Crute takes a long time off. You think we're going to get, a better, more seasoned version of him coming back, improved striking, change in game plan maybe. No. He was the exact same in that fight. Like, he came back, he marched forward, he burned himself out in the first, working for takedowns. Somehow Alonzo Menifield is the guy who's got better cardio early on in this fight. And he took a life-changing beating, Andrew. The amount of damage that Crute took in that fight and was still able to stay standing. He was out on his feet for, I want to say, like 6 minutes of that 15. I don't know how he stayed in that fight. I don't know how they allowed it to continue. He's the one that caught the second wind, and then he started being able to take Alonzo Menifield down deeper in that fight. So they're going to run this thing back. I really feel like this was a spot. It's a get-right spot. They want Jim Crute to be a star. They want him to win this fight. It was supposed to be a showcase, and Menifield had other ideas. Now they're running it back. We've seen it once before. Now we've got to pick them, though, because obviously Jim Crute didn't get anywhere near covering a 2-1 favorite line the last time out, but I feel like the handicap is the exact same as it was last time. And we've seen these fights when they run the rematches, man. No two fights are ever the same. Especially with like Figueiredo and Moreno are a perfect example of that. They just never play out exactly the way that they did the last time. So I almost feel like a lot of people are going to be buying the Wolf tickets on Alonzo Menifield in this spot, thinking he'll be able to recreate that and maybe even get the finish. I think I'm going to bet Crute again. I'm getting a giant discount in the price tag. And I still think he's got the better gas tank. And I know he's the better grappler. He's the younger fighter. So if anybody's going to fade here, unless his chin is literally broken from the last fight, Alonzo's the one that's going to be getting older and feeling that age kind of tearing him down just a little bit. I almost think I'm forced to pull the trigger on another buy low spot here with Jimmy Crute, even though it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight because, like you said last time, they obviously both are coming off a fight with each other. It was a very chaotic fight. Obviously ending in a draw. Crute younger, I think he pushes the pace better, so I think you have to slightly favor him because of that. But that being said, it is not a confident fight for me because Menifield was hitting him very, very, very hard, especially early. Crute kind of had to walk through hell to kind of put a pace on him late. But I do, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick Crute to get the win just because I think he has more ways to kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of tweak his approach to this fight.
He's got more tools.
More tools, just him being younger and being able to push a pace better. I like his potential to adjust. So I'll pick him, but I wouldn't be surprised. None of these outcomes would surprise me in this fight. Like, seriously, it was so chaotic last time. I'm kind of expecting more of the same.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing for me is if Crute doesn't come in with the mentality of I'm going to run through this a-hole, I kind of feel like he can just wear him out. If he doesn't burn himself out that quickly, we know he's going to be fresher down the stretch. And he even proved that in the last fight. So if he's just a smidgen more defensively sound in this fight, I think he kind of puts on the performance we thought he was going to last time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
Speculation, obviously. No way we can predict that. We got to wait and find out. Folks, we are powering through this absolutely awesome card here with Andrew. We've already got 200 live viewers. Thank you all for being here on the Die Hard MMA podcast. Do me a favor, hit the like button. Let me run through the sponsors real quick, and we will get right back at it. First of all, Pub Sports Radio, always hosting the show. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. Check out the weekly free contest we have, pubsportsradio.com. You can sign up for free, make an account for free. Our shop and stuff is here. You can find all the shows here as well. But the best part about it is this weekly pick'em contest. $100 to the winner. All you got to do is be on top. We had a tie last week. It looks like Brockstar and 2F are the guys that got on top here. We keep a running tally. As you can see right here, your boy Die Hard MMA Pod has 8,600 points and 2 straight out wins. I'm a brown belt here, so you get the running leaderboard going. It's a cool thing. Come hang out with us. It's free. Chance to win $100. Why not? Next up, Spectation Sports. It's your home for MMA action on the regional scene. We've been watching a lot of up-and-coming fighters using this relationship I've got going here. North Iowa Fights, Cage Titans. They've got fights coming up here in the next month. Use promo code DIEHARD if you want to sign up there. 20% off of your subscription. It's pretty awesome if you want more MMA action. Next up, the Sharp app. If you want models, if you want sharp information for betting action, weekly articles, daily articles, videos, all that stuff, check out the Sharp app. I will put a link in the description down below. And finally, our newest sponsor, Bet Openly. You know, if you guys want action, these guys will get it for you here. Peer-to-peer betting. What that means is you set up a bet and somebody else existing in real life can actually take the other side of it. You cut out the middleman, and that gives everybody involved better odds. You also don't have to worry about them limiting you because it's other people that you're going head-to-head with. You click on create a bet, single, parlay, whatever you want to do, for example, and I'm always going to put up a spot where you guys can try and come take my money. This week, it's either going to be Jimmy Crute or it'll be Shannon Ross. I'm not sure which one. I'll pick after the show, but it's that simple. You click in here. You can move your line if you want to because you can offer your opponent whatever you would like, and you can click that and submit bet. I'm not going to do it right this second because I'll make it with however much money I actually want to put up for you guys. But the idea is you guys can come gamble with me, and if you want these Clint bucks, you can absolutely go head-to-head with me and take my money. I have gone 0-2. Right? I've donated money because I bet on my girl Jillian Robertson, and the 3 of you that took my action with the baby shark absolutely took it and swam off with it. And then last week, the split decision, I had $200 on Melissa Gatto, and all you Lipsky backers out there stole my money and ran away with it. So if you want better odds, less juice, come play over here on Bet Openly, and you guys can go head-to-head with me and try and take my money. I'm also going to real quickly just get the link to that here in the chat. If you guys would do me a favor, just click the link. You know, you guys can check out the site later, obviously, if you want to, but it helps me out as far as the sponsor relationship stuff goes. Drive some traffic over there for me. I'm going to start talking about the next fight and get that link here for you guys, and then you can click it for me. I'll stick it in the chat. Next up, we've got Yazmin Jauregui taking on Denise Gomez in what is kind of maybe a low-key banger spot here, Andrew. I'm excited for this fight. You know, you guys probably remember Yazmin Jauregui. She made it to the UFC, and her first fight, it was the one where we're all scratching our heads, right? We're all going, why is this fight on the main card? What are they doing here? And it was just an absolute barn burner between 2 future studs, between her and Yazmin Lucendo. Now she's coming off of a round 2 KO finish of Estela Nunez in what was a very, very impressive performance. This girl's got it all already, Andrew. She is only 24 years old. She is smooth on the feet. She's heavy when she walks forward with her pressure. She covers up well. She got chin checked in that last fight against Nunez. Recovered, took it well, came back, worked her way back into the fight. So we know she can be tested. She can be hurt. It's not going to dissuade her. She'll keep coming forward. I love everything that I see about her and her whole game. Now, her opponent in this spot is a little bit underrated dangerous here, I feel like. Denise Gomez is just 7-2. And you guys remember Carol Hossa last week. We squeezed by a little split decision-y poo there on Carol Hossa last week. This is, I believe, her partner, but she is 23. And she's very Jessica Andrade to me, Andrew. She comes forward, she wings missiles, she bullies you up against the fence, she tries to rib roast people. She hits freaking hard. She's a little undersized for the weight class, but she is a beast. I like everything I see about Denise Gomez too. The problem for me here on this one is I think she's just going to be at the wrong end of the athleticism department, right? She's going to have that reach disadvantage. She's going to have that height disadvantage. I think she's going to get outworked, outmoved. She's not going to be quite fast enough. She won't be able to control Jauregui, but I think she's tough. You know, she went 15 straight minutes with Loma Lookboonmee. That's saying something. Her only finished loss was her UFC debut where she got punched out. Obviously, she could get finished by Jauregui. I like Jauregui to win the fight, but it's another spot where I'm going to be taking notes. I kind of hope Denise Gomez comes and shows us something. Yazmin is minus 400. Denise Gomez is plus 300. And after last week, I'm probably just done laying chalk on women's MMA at this price tag. So I'll pick her to win, but I want to just watch this one. What do you think?
Yeah, similar thoughts to you. I think Yazmin's going to win. I'm not looking to lay any kind of crazy price tag on her. Minus 400 is already 80% implied, so you're not really giving yourself much wiggle room there. That being said, she's explosive for a female. She hits hard, pretty good technically. I think she should be fine here. It's just not a spot I'm interested in from a betting perspective, but I think she gets it done and keeps her winning streak going.
Completely agree. We don't need to spend too much more time on that one, I don't think, because it probably goes one of one way. And, you know, unfortunately, folks, we are trying to put on a fun show here for you, but this next fight is much the same. Jack Della getting a new opponent here, short notice fill in, and Josiah Harrell is going to be the lamb to slaughter. There were a bunch of fighters, man, that put their name in for this spot. Chris Curtis wanted to take it. Kevin Holland wanted to take it. There's a lot of really solid names that I feel like they could have taken, but the UFC goes for the, what appears to be the instant highlight reel and 10K win and show type of spot instead of paying up for a known name. This kid's 24 years old. They call him the muscle hamster. He's a little undersized, I feel like. I watched some of his tape, and he is explosive. He is strong. He's thick. I mean, he reminds me, physically speaking, of like, not Alonzo, Menifield. Who's my 205er that I can't stand that Ion Kutalaba knocked his teeth out? Damn, he's all legs. Tree trunk thighs. It's going to bother me that I can't remember his name right now. Son of a bitch. I think Alonzo actually fought him. I'm going to look at Alonzo's record. I'm going to figure it out. Bear with me. This is Devin Clark. He looks so much like Devin Clark. He's built the exact same way. Big old thick thighs, big old meaty shoulders. Yeah, Dixon Sider got to it before I did there in the chat. Devin Clark. That's what this kid reminds me of. So he's pretty good. Yeah, he's okay. It seems like he can do everything relatively well. But at the end of the day, he's fighting big step up in competition in this spot. I love the super loose flowing striking of Jack Della, the way he keeps people at the end of his range, the way he sits down on his punches. He just touches, and then sits when he finally has a kill shot, when he knows he can do the damage. I mean, Jack Della, I think, is going to style in this spot, Andrew. Frankly, I feel like it's a pay-per-view slot where they can get their guy a highlight reel KO. And I don't know what this kid is going to do. I don't know where he stands much chance in this fight. Maybe you can tell me otherwise, but I think Josiah is a bit of a lamb to slaughter. 10-1 favorite, Jack Della, plus 650 on the dog. I think he's just going to wipe him clean here.
Yeah, I actually haven't had a chance to look at Josiah yet, but from what I understand, 155 are going up to 170 on very short notice. Mm-hmm. He has somewhat of a wrestling background, so my biggest fear is that he exposes Jack Della's lack of a grappling game and still loses the fight. But I think Jack probably knocks him out, and that is what I will be rooting for future betting purposes.
I hear you. You worry about a Paddy Pimblett situation?
Yeah, that was worst case scenario. I was on Jared Gordon there. I literally had I never like there were people who like, oh, I fade Paddy in every single fight. I never faded him. I waited for the perfect moment. I got Jared Gordon at plus 180 or plus 200, whatever he was. He wins the fight. They read the decision, and I'm just like, so not only did I lose money I should have won, but now the fade equity is gone. So it was just like like if I was going to lose that bet, I would have way rather Paddy just dusted him in the first round. But it is what it is, I guess.
I get it, man. It's gross. And honestly, I'm not proud of that one. Well, okay, I'm a little bit proud. I actually kind of called the shenanigans on that fight when I did my breakdown. I was like, I'm parlaying Paddy because Patty won't lose. Like, they're not going to not raise Patty's hand in this spot. So, like, regardless of the outcome, this ticket is cashing, and I put him in a parlay. I didn't even get to watch that fight, man. I didn't even get to watch it live. So it was way greasier than I ever expected going to run it back. And I'm a little proud because I knew how it was going to end up. But at the same time, anybody with a Gordon ticket, that was the right side.
Yeah, that was not a fun one.
One of those absolutely gross, disgusting spots.
Add it to the list. Emmers, Kai Kara France.
Oh, God.
Jared Gordon, Jian Kim. Add it. Just keep tallying it up.
Were you on Usman and Adesanya last year in the 5th round comebacks?
Yes.
Because I was on both those.
Yes. I was on that and Glover.
Oh, geez. Dude, I had the under in the Glover fight. I had under 4.5.
Oh, 4.5. I had like under 2.5. That's crazy, dude.
I had under 4.5 to close out what was, I think, a 52-1 parlay.
Oh my God.
And it finished like what, a minute over the 4.5. I even like laid the extra chalk, but for God knows what reason, doesn't go the distance. I didn't think I'd need the extra 2.5 minutes.
I didn't either. That's crazy.
Brutal. All right, everybody smash the like for us here. We got 220 live viewers. We're getting to the main card of this bad boy. Next up, we've got the legend, Robbie Lawler, bringing it back against one of the most vicious power punchers in the weight class, Niko Price. And, you know, I always talk about this guy's power. I always talk about it. It's so awkward, Andrew. He's got these long, lanky gorilla arms, and everything he throws is loopy, and it comes at a weird angle, and he's nothing but nonstop aggression. I was a Niko Price truther. I really thought this guy had like Francis Ngannou power at this weight class. The way he got like the KO off of his back when he was tied up on bottom and got the KO from bottom. I was like, this guy's just going to wreck people because he's got stupid, unreal power. Turns out that's not the case. He definitely hits hard, but he doesn't have that level of power. He's been struggling a little bit recently. You know, he's 1-3-1 in his last 5, the no contest with Donald Cowboy Cerrone, which was gross. The Luque fight where I actually thought he was winning up until the point that he got stopped. It was close, even though he was wearing the damage. I thought on the rounds he actually had done okay. Then the Pereira fight where I can't get Pereira right. So if nobody's figured this out yet, I've bet Niko Price a lot in the last couple of years, and he's done nothing but lose me money. Here they give him the shell of Robbie Lawler, who frankly looked fantastic up until the point that he got melted against Brian Barberena. He was still in that fight, Andrew. He was rolling well. He was covering. He was parrying. He was alive in the pocket. He took some shots. He returned fire. Brian Barberena looked like he was in trouble at the end of that first round. I was actually very impressed with what Robbie Lawler looked like, considering he's like 1-6 in his last 7. Like, he's on a ridiculous losing streak, with the only win coming over Fat Diaz, who came in without any interest in putting, a full 15-minute fight together in that spot. I just don't like this line. There's a lot of these favorites where I'm like, favorite or pass, favorite or pass, favorite or pass. I think Niko Price might send Robbie Lawler to the Shadow Realm just because he's got that kind of power in this spot. And Lawler is not quite who he was before. But minus 260, Robbie Lawler is obviously technically by far the better fighter. So this is like step on their throat. The old legend is going to die. They're just, all that's baked into this price tag. I worry about the R word. If this is the retirement fight here for Robbie Lawler, I only ever want to bet against people in that position. But I still think this is just way too wide. I think I have to pick Niko Price or bet a KO prop or pass. Like, I don't like the side here, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very hard for me to get behind the side here. On one hand, you've got Robbie Lawler, who's in his 40s, who has taken another year off in between fights. He's going to retire. And then on the other side, you've got Niko Price, who looked a career worst in his last fight, losing to someone who he would have for sure, in my opinion, beaten in his prime.
Absolutely.
I found it interesting that Niko Price was doing some training with Ben Askren, working on his wrestling game. I know that's an area that Robbie Lawler struggled with later in his career, so I'm curious if he'll go to that. But yeah, I'm picking I'm picking Niko Price here with not much of a conviction at all. It's just you're getting two guys who are kind of past it. You got one who seems to be more past it. Yeah, I think someone probably dies. I would assume it's Lawler, but it
Yeah.
also wouldn't shock me if Niko Price is able to grapple him too. So we'll see. I think Price is a justified favorite. I think the price is justified. Get it?
There you go. There it is. Bringing out the big guns. I like it. No, I'm with you there, man. Like I said, I think Nico probably finishes him, but at the same time, I didn't catch the Ben Askren connection. So that's very interesting because Nico is probably tired of getting punched in the face at this point. You got to think so, at least the amount of damage he's taken recently. If he goes to the wrestling, this might be the most boring send-off in UFC history, where he just kind of is out muscling a legend and lays on him for 15 minutes, because that's definitely a path to victory for him. I mean, Robbie Lawler's only got 65% takedown defense. Not that that's bad, but we haven't really seen much of him wrestling his last two fights. But Neil Magny landed 4 takedowns on him, and Colby Covington landed 10. So he definitely, especially at these later stages of his career, is probably open to being taken down. That's maybe not a bad look. That could lend some additional value in my mental handicap here to Niko Price, I feel like.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us. We're getting to these last couple fights. Next up, we got none other than the man himself, Bo Nickal, taking on Tresean Gore in the original squash match for UFC 290. Man, I'm excited to watch a lot of these fights. I'm excited to watch a lot of them play out. But when it comes to betting, like I said, it's so chalky. This is going to be a difficult fight card to navigate, and a difficult one, I feel like, to maybe extract too much value from, unless you're parlaying up all the big favorites and just trying to avoid the landmine that will be the parlay buster. Bo Nickal being brought in here against Tresean Gore, a guy that I actually had some decently high hopes for. He's been a little disappointing, but at 4-2, what can you really ask of the guy? I'm actually a little surprised, man. I felt like Tresean Gore, they were super high on him. They brought him into The Ultimate Fighter, and everyone was raving about how good he was. He loses to Brian Battle and then somehow gets starched by Cody Brundage. That's looked more and more like a fluke as time has gone on. And they're now just feeding him to the wolves. Like, he pulls out a Hail Mary from his ass against Josh Fremd. He's punching above his weight class in all these fights, man. He's only got 6 professional fights, and he's taken on UFC guys with 9, 10 fights, and they're just feeding him to Bo. I'm going to feel really bad for Tresean if the UFC cuts him after this one, because they will have ruined his professional record and then sent him right back to the regionals, where he's probably better than a lot of these guys. And it's going to be a hard road for him to get back, because a lot of people are just going to think he's a bum at this point. So I'm a little disappointed in what they've done to the poor kid, but he's got some decent grappling chops. He's got some heavy hands. He's got big power. He's a little low volume, and that's kind of part of the problem. He doesn't really let it go. I don't feel like he's comfortable here at this level yet. And Bo Nickal is a guy that I'll let you talk about the wrestling. Of the two of us, you're definitely the expert here in the wrestling department. But it seems like a guy who could be competing, in or around the Olympics, but instead decided to come to MMA. So no one's going to stand a chance grappling with this guy. So it's just a matter of getting his striking up to stuff. I hope he doesn't have another highlight reel whiffed head kick to start the fight here in this one. That was hilarious. But I really want to see him do a little bit better in the striking. I just don't know if you want to test it against the guy who's got the power of Tresean Gore. So we probably see another wrestle fucking submission in this spot, I would think. Bo Nickal by sub. That's my plan here, Andrew. You talk to me a little bit about Bo Nickal. Tell the people what he's capable of, and then let us know how you think the fight ends.
Yeah, so he's obviously an incredible wrestler. He multiple-time national champ, Olympic hopeful, got very, very close to making world teams, which is really hard to do in the U.S. given how deep the talent is. And the thing that impressed me, I shouldn't even say impressed me the most, but something that stands out with Bo Nickal's NCAA career is that he was a finisher in wrestling, which doesn't really even exist at the highest level. Like, when you're at the highest level of the NCAAs, like, no one's really pinning each other. No one's really tech falling each other. But Bo Nickal was out there like pinning guys in the NCAA tournament. He even had a pin in the NCAA finals. He's all kinds of records, bonus point records. So his ability to be a finisher in a sport at a level where you can't really be a finisher was always like insanely impressive to me. So I've been very curious to see how much that translated into MMA. And so far he's been continuing that tradition. So yeah, I mean, Tresean Gore's tough. He can be explosive. I don't think he's a bad fighter, but I do think this is I do think this is a test that Bo Nickal passes. And yeah, it's just a matter of what this kid's ceiling is. And I like everyone else, obviously you look at the betting line and see minus 1,500. Think it's high.
Yeah, definitely a little bit high. We do have a question here from the chat. Activate A asking, does Andrew wrestle?
I did once upon a time. I wrestled for 16 years until I was 21, 22. And yeah.
The man knows his stuff. The only one I've ever seen posting, like, was it Olympic or like NCAA wrestling tournament bets?
Yeah, if there was a bigger market for that, I'd be betting it all the time. They kind of have just been dabbling with it the last couple of years, but the day that happens is the day where I go all in on that.
He'll just hang it up breaking down the MMA. You're good to go in the wrestling market. I would be all for that, man. I know what you did last time around. It was pretty crazy, the stuff you called. I love it.
Yeah, it's super fun. Obviously, it's a smaller sport popularity wise, so I'm hoping if it could kind of get a little bit more exposure that way, it'd be a good way to grow the sport.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen it in basically everything, right? Betting drives eyes. People will bet on it. They'll watch it. You open up some lines. People will be suddenly tuning in for wrestling matches on Thursday and Friday nights. If you let me throw $50 at it, that's how it goes.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Next up, everybody, we're getting to the good stuff here. Dan Hooker taking on Jalen Turner, my guy, the Tarantula. And this was the anchor to my Gato parlay last week. I had it on Jalen Turner here in that spot, had plus 120 on it. I liked that parlay. And now I'm sitting here kind of scratching my chin and wondering if I want to reload that bet or not. I do like Jalen Turner. He's a minus 250 in this spot. He's kind of been my guy. I've been just printing money betting on Jalen Turner his last couple of fights, or really his entire UFC career, essentially, especially like the Brad Riddell spot, the Jamie Malarkey spot, the Eros Medic spot, like those three in particular, I put big bets on him and he came through for me. The Mateos Gamrot was the one where, I was a little bit worried about him, had to go to war with my guy, split decision. It was close, went down with the ship. It is what it is. I think he can have a lot of success here against Dan Hooker, who seems like the guy who's got so much tread on the tire at this age range, 33 years old. He's got 34 professional fights. He's been absolutely brutalized in the UFC, knocked out in round 1 by Arnold Allen. He took the Islam Makhachev fight. I know that was just kind of a paycheck for him. He got Kamurd. It's not like he got beaten to a pulp, but he got knocked out clean by Michael Chandler, and the beating Dustin Poirier put on him will take years off of a human being's life. Not to mention the Barboza fight from a couple years ago. There's only so much the human body can take. While he is probably more skilled when it comes to the range striking portion of the fight, I kind of feel like Turner's got him almost everywhere else. I mean, Turner is a nasty grappler. He's got big elbows on him. He's got that step-in knee to the body that I really like. And frankly, for him, the step-in knee to the body can become a step-in knee to the head with just like minimal effort because of how damn tall he is. I don't know that Dan Hooker can get into a firefight with this kind of guy. Maybe he can take him down. He might be able to kind of smooth him on the feet a little bit, be more technical, be more defensive. But I feel like Dan Hooker always finds himself in a gunfight. And as soon as you get yourself into a gunfight with a guy like Jalen Turner, it's probably not going to end well for you. So I like Jalen Turner here. He's going to be the pick. I would expect this fight to finish. I want to see what the number comes out for like a total. Because if we get an okay 2.5, or a fight doesn't go the distance, that might be a safer way to play it because we have seen Jalen Turner hurt. I mean, the Jamie Malarkey fight, for instance, Malarkey got him with some big counter shots and you saw him wobble just a little bit in those spots. Dan Hooker definitely still has some finishing upside. He's got some clean punches. He's got some kicks. I like everything about the guy. I just think Turner probably catches him here in this spot. So not as much confidence, not as bullish as I was last time around, but I think I'm picking Turner here. Andrew, how do you like this fight?
Yeah, I think for a total, we've got 1.5 shaded towards the over.
Okay.
So, I think this fight finishes as well. You've got two guys who get after it on the feet. I think both of them have poorish defensive tendencies. Turner's striking defensive stats are really bad, but Hooker seems to be on the downswing. I know he's only 33 or 34 years old, but it kind of seems like the years of wars are kind of adding up. Turner, he's obviously very explosive. He hits hard. He's a good striker. Hooker, you could say a lot of those same things about. What I find interesting about this fight is it's really the first time or one of the first times where each of them are facing someone that's as long as them. They're both very long 155-pounders, so I think it's going to be interesting to see how they both adjust to fighting someone that could kind of match them in that length department. But I do think I trust Turner's durability more at this point in their careers. So for those reasons, I'm picking him. But it's not a confident pick at minus 230. But yeah, I do think he gets it done.
Okay. All right. My guy MMA Locker Room in the chat letting us know he talked with our guy Turner today. They referenced the Poirier fight, and he knows all about those body shots. You love to hear it. And apparently what he was saying is he put on 8 pounds of muscle training in Abu Dhabi. Frankly, that makes me a little worried about the fight on the scale, though, because Turner is a guy who I'm not sure how he makes weight right now to begin with. If he put 8 more pounds of muscle on, I think he's going to struggle making 155. This may be the last time we see him at 155. But if he misses weight by 2 pounds, oh, it's all in on Turner, baby. If they cut the weight cut short and he can't quite get down to 155, it's back to dump truck up time on Jalen Turner with a weight advantage. That'll be the plan on Friday. All right, everybody, we got 3 more fights here. Maybe the most intriguing of the bunch. Robert Whittaker, the Reaper himself, taking on Dricus du Plessis. And I have always been just so massively respectful of Robert Whittaker, Andrew. I took my shot on this guy. I did not believe that he was championship caliber. I did not think that he was worthy of having that belt around his waist. I argued my ass off for those Yoel decisions going the other way. I bet Yoel both times. Really thought he was going to be the guy to get it done. But Robert Whittaker has done nothing but maintain excellence over the course of his career. And I mean, he took that KO blow from Israel Adesanya, and even in the rematch, managed not to get knocked out. Like, the guy is a high-level thinker. He knows how to game plan. He knows how to tweak. He knows how to adjust. His combos are smooth. Everything is... It's almost GSP-like, where like he just is so defensively solid. You're just never going to get the opportunity to hurt him because he can game plan around what you do best. He's so good. He's so damn good. I thought that Jared Cannonier might be able to get one over him. Nope. I thought Marvin Vettori might be able to out-wrestle him. Nope. He's just got a champion skill set. Highest level of everything is Robert Whittaker. But he's been doing this a long time. He's still somehow only 32 years old, but he's been just the ultimate gatekeeper here in this weight class because the only guy to get by him right now is Israel Adesanya. And frankly, that's a bit of a weird situation to put us in because the UFC wants Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis. You know, Izzy's kind of cleaned out the division now that Pereira's left. This is the guy who's captured everyone's imagination. He's the big finisher in the weight class right now. He's young. He's exciting. He's got a country behind him. There's all the Africa talk going on between these two guys. That's the fight they want. So for them to book him against the guy that nobody beats, I find extremely interesting. Dricus is 29 years old, so he's coming into his physical prime here. Since he moved up to 185, it seems to have done him a whole lot of good because this guy is another one that he's got so much muscle on his frame. I never quite knew how he made 170 pounds in the first place, and he's really blown up at 185. He is so big. He is so strong. And unless I'm mistaken, he just had surgery to like Amanda Nunes did, where it like opens the airways up in your face because he's been gassing out a lot in fights. He always finds a way to like catch a second wind and work his way back into it. But I guess now he should be able to breathe for the first time in his career. And I find that at least a little bit interesting in this spot. Man, it's a weird spot for me, Andrew, because not often do I take like all the tape and the study and the footage and everything, wad it up and throw it out the window because the hair's on the back of my neck. But that's what's happening here. Robert Whittaker is a minus 400 favorite. You can get plus 300 on Dricus. And I think the biggest factor for me might be the size difference. Dricus is huge. He's 6'1". Whittaker's like 5'11". Dricus is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage on him. So I know Rob has those stellar, fantastic game plans, but I feel like somebody like Dricus that's just too big, too powerful, a real middleweight, might be the guy who can finally find that chink in the armor and maybe hurt him again on the feet because we know he's got that kind of power. I might take a flyer on the underdog here in this spot as this line continues to climb because my eyes tell me that it's all Rob Whittaker in this spot. You know, the history tells me it's all Rob Whittaker in this spot, but the narrative tells me that the UFC wants Dricus du Plessis to win this fight. And he's the younger fighter. He's the bigger fighter. and I can't find anybody that wants to bet him. So I'm kind of like, just going full tinfoil hat on this one where none of it matters and give me the dog. Somehow, some way, I feel like Dricus du Plessis is the guy that's going to walk out of the cage with a title shot on Saturday, man. I don't know why.
That'd be something. Someone's got to tell Justin Villegas that Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland already fought, and that Cannonier was the underdog. Do you see that? That already happened. But yeah, I think Whittaker is going to win. I mean, just like technique wise, they're literally like here from each other. Dricus just kind of finds a way to win, which I love. I mean, the guy's a gamer. He goes for it. He could strike. He could grapple. He just makes fights ugly. But I think Whittaker is going to just kind of pick him apart. And when Dricus gets over aggressive, I actually think Whittaker is going to be the guy to punish him. So I lean Rob by finish, but it'd be so awesome if Dricus. Like, I like Dricus. I can't help it. I very rarely.
Something about him.
I very rarely root for or against fighters just because, like, what I do, it's better to not have any kind of biases. But I can't help but like Dricus. I mean, he just goes out there and puts on like the most fun fights ever. Like the Till fight was just absolutely hilarious. The Brunson fight was insane. And now he's one win away from a title shot, which is pretty nuts given his skill set. So I can't help but root for him here. So I'm picking Whittaker, though. As we mentioned, just very superior technique-wise. I think he's going to counter Dricus. I don't think Dricus is going to be able to grapple him. Whittaker, historically, a great defensive grappler. So, yeah, I think Whittaker gets it done.
Yeah, man, I get it. I'm maybe gonna throw a unit into the void and just see what happens on this one. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't bet it because that's not a smart way to handle it. But like, I've just learned to kind of listen to the hairs on the back of my neck, and they're standing on this one for some reason. I don't know why. And Dricus, we did real well with him last time, man, because in the Brunson fight, we knew he was going to get handled by Brunson because, frankly, Brunson handles everybody. But we said, take the plus money after round one because he will find the second gear. He will find, the resurgence there in that fight. And once Brunson's tired, he's not the same guy. I got in at a gorgeous plus money number against Brunson after we got out of that first round. The problem is with Rob, he's not gassing. So I would think if I'm going to play the dog, I jump in pre-flop here because if anything, the finish is probably front loaded, right? It's probably more likely to happen early than it is to happen late against a guy like Whittaker. So if I'm going to do it, it's going to be pre-fight rather than live, but I might take a stab on Dricus. We'll see what happens. I'm not sold yet, but we'll see what happens.
It's a big number.
It's a big number. And with 185, these are some big boys. They hit hard. Next up, everybody. Brandon Moreno taking on Alexandre Pantoja, and I love me some Brandon Moreno. You guys know he's my boy. He's my guy. Maybe my number one most profitable fighter of all time. Like the Figueiredo trilogy, I ducked and weaved, and I called every outcome in that fight. I had the knockout. I had the sub. I had the over the one time it went to the decision. Like, Andrew, I could not have done better. Honestly, I don't think I could ever replicate the performance I did in that trilogy betting any other time in my life.
It was a quadrilogy, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the quadrilogy. And that was the thing. I got one extra fight out of it, right? Like, I literally called everything so perfectly in that quadrilogy that it's a shame it had to end. I want them to run it back so I can do it again. But Pantoja presents a whole new, different set of issues for our guy, Brandon Moreno, one of which, the biggest one, you guys will hear until you're sick over the course of this fight week, is that he owns a win over Brandon Moreno, and not one, but two. They fought on The Ultimate Fighter. He finished this kid on The Ultimate Fighter. They fought again. They met in the UFC, and he won a decision in that spot. That was 5 years ago. Brandon's got the belt wrapped around his waist. Pantoja's now the challenger. And I think a lot of people are taking the shot on the live dog simply because of history. But as we see, more and more money keeps on pouring in here on Brandon Moreno. He was a short favorite earlier in the week. He's sitting about minus 200 now. And like you mentioned, you try not to root for fighters because we're gambling on them. I can't help it. I'm massively biased on Brandon Moreno. He's my guy. I love him to death. I love the Legos. I love his attitude. He's my favorite champion. I want to see him just continue to do well. On top of that, he's one of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. Like, this guy gets in the cage, and he's not the fun Lego guy anymore. He's an absolute monster in there. He scrambles well. His game is evolving. He was showing off some excellent kicks against Roy Val and I'm sorry, not Royval, in his fight against Kaikara France, like he showed different new things. You can see that even at this age, he's still getting better. He's still improving. He's only 29 years old. I feel like this is a spot where Pantoja is going to cause him problems because, frankly, he always does. He's a super high-level grappler. He gets people's backs. His submission game is off the charts. But I think Brandon Royval's – or not, geez, I keep saying Royval. Love that guy too. But I think Brandon Moreno is just going to be able to scramble out of those positions. I think he's going to be able to work it back up to the feet. And, frankly, I think, Andrew, this fight's going to go over. I think we're going to have all the opportunities in the world for this thing to finish, and we're going to end up with, like, a closely contested decision. I'm going to pick Brandon Moreno to get the win. I'm going to pick him to get the win by decision, and I think I'm going to look for an over if I can get a decent price tag.
Yeah, it's a high variance fight. It's an exciting fight. Obviously, these two have fought twice in the past. Some things you could take from those fights, some you can't. Obviously, the last fight being 5 full years ago. Both fighters have evolved since then. Pantoja, obviously, excellent jiu-jitsu, very good grappler. He takes the center of the octagon. He forces a fight. Brandon Moreno, a little bit younger, a little bit bigger, proven he can go 5 rounds. So there's advantages I give to both of these guys. I find it very, very hard to pick this fight. I don't think it can be ignored that Pantoja is head-to-head 2-0 over Moreno, and I know that Moreno's gotten better. I know that he's younger. I know that he's a little bit bigger now than he was back then. But it's just there's a mental thing when someone's beaten you twice. There really, really is. And it's not to say that it's automatic. It's not to say that it for sure means he'll win a third time. But if you're looking at the odds right now, and I have not played anything for this fight because I find it very hard to predict. I think it's Pantoja or pass here, especially at plus 150 or better. To me, when it's a high variance fight like this, when the underdog has 2 wins over the favorite, when Moreno hasn't fought anyone besides Figueiredo, he had one Kaikara France fight, but other than that, like it's been all Figueiredo, and it's been the same stylistic matchup over and over and over. He had the Kaikara France fight, which was a very close fight, and you're just getting a different kind of fighter in Pantoja that he hasn't seen in a while. And Pantoja, a couple very good wins. The one that stands out to me is the Manel Kopp fight, which I know might be a little bit surprising, but it's the fact that he did that without just grappling him for 15 minutes. The fact that he was taking the center of the octagon and he was winning striking exchanges, outlanding him, outvoluming him. And he goes out there against Perez. I bet Perez in that fight. He goes out there and submits him in 90 seconds. I mean, come on. This guy's going to get in your face. He's going to go for it. He might get hit, and that to me, that's a concern on the Pantoja side. He's a little bit hittable. So just, again, I'm all over the place with this, but to lay this out, the advantages I give Pantoja are that he's up 2-0 on Moreno. He's excellent jiu-jitsu. He comes in and he gets after it. The advantages on the Moreno side, he's gotten bigger. He's younger. He's a good striker. I think he has better striking defense, and he has good volume. He's good. He's a good grappler as well. I just don't think he's on the same level as Pantoja. And then from a negative standpoint, Pantoja a little bit on the older side. He's never been 5 rounds, and he's a little bit hittable. Moreno on the negative side, he's lost to this guy twice. He hasn't faced a stylistic matchup like it in a while, and I think he's a little bit susceptible to ending up on bottom here. So it's a super high variance fight. I'm going to end up picking Pantoja to get it done.
Okay. All right. A little bit of dissension here. I get it. I totally understand it. I can make the I can understand why anybody would want to be on the Pantoja side with all of those things that he's got in his back pocket here in this spot. I got to go with my guy. I'm not going to go to war with my guy. I don't think I'm betting Brandon Moreno. We'll see. I want to look at the props when they kind of come out. I don't think laying minus 200 in this spot is a good call. Like I said, I do think it will go to a close competitive decision unless Brandon Moreno is able to find like a knockout in the later rounds. The way Pantoja kept coming forward on Figueiredo, he ate some of the biggest shots you've ever seen doing it. Now, that was an absolute beating. I'm not sure how he took. And Brandon is more technique than brute force. So believe it or not, I feel like maybe he finds a finish that way because he can land a little cleaner on the button in those spots and not necessarily just be so much of a car crash. But that proves the kind of durability and chin that we're dealing with on Pantoja, right? So I don't know if a finish happens. I'm still going to just kind of stick with the overs. I'll say Brandon wins. I might have to just stay off this fight, man. Andrew, I might just have to not put my money on this one because my heart will be invested. I'll be rooting.
Yeah, and this is one of those fights where it's an exciting fight regardless of whether or not you have action on it. So I'm sure you'll enjoy this one regardless.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Main event time. It's happening. Let's talk about Alexander Volkanovski taking on Yair Rodriguez. And the march to Mexico continues, man. This is just a showcase card for these guys. We've got 2 title holders right now. Volkanovski took his shot up at 155. Man, I thought you could arguably give him the win there in that spot at home in his home arena. Didn't quite get it done, has to come back down, and we have a champion in the waiting. Yair Rodriguez has been nothing but spectacular in his last couple of fights. The Brian Ortega shoulder injury was a little questionable, but it showed off how deadly this guy is on the ground, the improvements that he's made in that area. And frankly, nobody finishes Josh Emmett. You know, that's the thing that we just saw. Nobody finishes Josh Emmett. And not only did he finish him, but he hurt him on the feet before he did it. Yair's kicks are deadly, man. The knees, the range, he's so smooth. I think the problem for me is I just can't get the Max Holloway lesson out of my head. Now, MMA math does not work, folks. We've seen it time and time again. MMA math doesn't work. But Max Holloway was my guy. Max Holloway was my champion. I finally wisened up in the 3rd Volkanovski fight, Andrew, and I didn't lose money betting Max Holloway against Alexander Volkanovski for the first time in the trilogy. I backed him in both the first fights. I thought he could arguably have won. I think both of them, actually. He hurt him in the second one. And then I finally woke up and realized that, you know what, Volkanovski's just the better man. He's going to get it done. He's more tactical. He'll find a way. He's going to mix the game up. He chops away with those leg kicks. He controls the range. He can wrestle if he needs to. He's insanely durable. You can't tap him. Like, this guy is just next level. Volkanovski is more than I ever anticipated that he would ever be. And frankly, he's probably the best fighter we've seen by a country mile, except maybe John Jones. He's turned into that at this stage of his career somehow. I'm not betting against Alexander Volkanovski. I actually know some really smart, really sharp people who I very much respect that are taking the stab on Yair Rodriguez. I understand. I get it. And I'm sorry, you're just going to a place where I can't follow you. If anything, I'm going to anchor parlays on Volkanovski, and then you can hedge out, get some plus money on Yair Rodriguez to lock up a little bit of a victory if you want to do it that way. I'm picking Volkanovski, and I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of does exactly what he did to Max Holloway. You know, if he just kind of picks and pokes and chips away at this guy for 25 straight minutes, but never gives him the opportunity to land the big bomb, I kind of think Volkanovski by decision is the way that I'd be looking at this, Andrew. I'm really curious to hear what you think. What do you got going on here on this one?
Yeah, I got to just say, not to rub salt in the wound, but I was on Volkanovski all 3 Holloway fights. So that's a fun trip down memory lane for me talking about that one. But Volkanovski, unquestionably, just outstanding fighter. He gave Islam all he can handle at 55. At 145, he's never even really been tested outside of Max. I think Yair is probably KO or bust here. I think Volkanovski is the better striker. I think he has massive grappling upside. I think when they're on the ground, Volkanovski is going to land some vicious ground and pound. We saw Max Holloway get the dominant positions on the mat against Yair. And I just kind of think it's one of those stylistic fights that it's very, very hard for Yair, a guy who thrives at kicking range. I think Volkanovski is going to get in his face. I think he's going to feel the power of Volkanovski. And if Volkanovski wants to mix in that wrestling, I think he could dumpster Yair on the ground. So I think this is a very good fight for Volkanovski. I think a big price tag on him here is warranted.
All right. I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad to hear that because like I said, all the people I'm hearing on the Yair side, they're making me sweat just a little bit here. But like I mentioned, minus 400, maybe a little bit too much to bite off entirely. I might play the decision line here. I'm sure I'll get close to even money on that for Volk. But for me, it's probably pick your favorite chalky price tags here and anchor them all on Volkanovski. And if you get to that point, you lock up a win, you hedge out a little bit on Yair, maybe by inside the distance, get that plus money up there, and then let the main amount of it ride on the favorite, go to war with the GOAT, Volkanovski. That's the way I'm rolling here in this spot. Andrew, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight, my guy. We kept it real nice and crisp. Thank you for the information. We definitely got some good looks, especially earlier on in the show where I feel like we can maybe abuse some of those prices that are not quite as sharp with these champion caliber fighters here up at the end of the card. If you would like to, let the people know how they can support you, where they can find you, all your good stuff coming up. Feel free. Floor is yours, man.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me. I always enjoy talking to you. Should be a fun card this weekend. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's @BetsAndPicksMMA, and you can kind of find everything else from there.
There you go. Give the man a follow. Check him out on Twitter. And thank you all for joining me here on the podcast. Just so you guys know, and I do apologize, I think it was my guy Ethan that was talking about the shirts earlier. So I will go ahead and drop the link for you guys. If you do want to support me, there's my shop. You guys can go grab a Always Trust Your Balls t-shirt if you would like one. You got to earn those bad boys, though. If you want to get a Die Hard logo or a Let's Roll over there, feel free to go ahead and snag one of these. That's the best way you can support me. The easiest way you can support me, though, is by smashing the like button and then dropping a comment in the comment section, especially after the live stream ends here. Make sure you drop something in there. Let me know, Ethan, you bought one. Let's go. Nice profile picture, by the way. Thank you all again very much. Make sure you check out betopenly.com. Kick some ass this week. We're going to do the Total Takedown Thursday, the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show on Friday, and of course, the boys go live for every UFC event on Saturday. Make sure you join that free pick'em contest for your shot to win $100. That's all I got for you this week, everybody. Get out there, kick some ass, make your mom proud. Let's roll.